Hello, good morning and welcome everyone. Right, I'm Miki. I'm Information and Support Officer at BCWA.
A sharing session, yeah, among friends, since I see that today we don't have a very big group. So basically, I'm going to address the three main issues that people have.
Okay, so today BCWA bring you an interesting topic that is growing your edible gardens, how to grow vegetable, herbs and fruits in your garden. Okay, so our guest speaker, Ms.Chan was a writer and editor specializing in health for almost 20 years before getting involved in advocacy, humanitarian work and community development. So Ms.Chan is a keen gardener. She is passionate about all components of sustainable living, such as composting, companion planting, soil creation, and also seed saving. Okay, so she will speak about 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A. Then feel free to key in your question in the chat box during the talk. Then Ms. Chan will answer your question later. Okay, so if you can't access to the chat box, right, you can just unmute and speak up yourself later. Okay, so over to you, Ms. Chan.
Thank you to BCWA for having me on this session. So basically, during this talk, I wouldn't call it a talk. Let's just call it. So I'm going to address some of the key issues that people have whenever they think of gardening, and they think of planting their own vegetables. It's like, my God, you want me to plant my own vegetables? The first thing I'm going to tell you is, I don't have the time. I'm working. I don't have time. And then people are going to say, I don't have space lah. Yo, Miss Chan, you got such a big garden. You can grow vegetables lah. I don't have this kind of space. And then you're going to tell me, I don't have knowledge lah. How am I supposed to grow my own vegetables? So where am I supposed to learn? I don't know anything, about planting vegetables. I plant anything also all die one. Yeah. So these are the three key issues when we talk about gardening. That's why I'm just going to address them because of the short time frame we have lah. We only got 40 minutes. Okay. So basically, I'm going to show you around two different parts of my garden, and for you to have a better understanding, and we'll try to cover as much scope as possible lah. Okay. So basically, this is where we are. I'm going to show you around the garden. So you can see that my garden is spread out into two different sections, and they are all a very good mixture. So I wouldn't say that I'm planting all the vegetables on one side and all the flowers on one side, because as a permaculture practitioner, I believe in what is known as companion planting. So in companion planting, we would combine a combination of edibles and non-edibles together, because in permaculture we know that whenever you have got what we call polyculture, in contrast to monoculture. So polyculture means you plant different types of plants together, and when that happens, insects and the bugs, they get confused. So whenever they get confused, they wouldn't go and attack your entire farm of, for example, let's say you're planting corn, or you're planting sawi, or you're planting bayam, whatever. So the insects will not be attracted to your entire stretch that you're planting of the same plant. Yeah, because you're going to have all these different elements, different plants that are planted together. So let's just take a very quick walk, and then I'll show you. So for example, here you can see that I have got ornamentals. I've got little chili that is in between this. This is a kind of plant. This is also a kind of herb that you can eat. In the past, olden days, people eat anything that they can plant. They don't have the luxury of what we have now. Just you have money, you just go to the market, you buy. In the olden days, people actually eat this. This is the torch ginger, and the shoots are actually edible. They're very fragrant. Yeah. So it's a kind of like ginger like that lah. You can see the red color flowers at the bottom one lah. So today got no flowers. Okay, so you can actually eat the shoots, slice them very thin, and you can eat them in your salad. So I plant them together with the chili as well as my syngonium. So it forms part of the flower bed here. And then, of course, here I've got the ornamentals, because when you are doing gardening, sometimes people say, I don't want to plant all just vegetables lah. No, or rather I want to plant all vegetables. I don't have much space. What for you want to plant all the flowers? Flowers cannot eat one ma. But sometimes when you do farming or when you do gardening, you're not just trying to feed yourself. You're trying to feed the world as well. There are other animals, there are other living beings that we feed. At the same time, if you plant things that look beautiful, flowers, very colorful plants, they feed your soul. You feel much happier. So gardening is a very good form of mental therapy. It helps you to be emotionally calm. There's a lot of research that says that people who garden, they tend to live longer and they tend to be far happier. Okay, so even here, I've got this gardening patch here, so you can see that there are some things here that can be eaten, and some of them are ornamentals. Some are to feed my stomach, some to feed my soul. So here you are. The pandan, of course, is to feed the stomach lah. Everybody knows what is pandan. And then here you see this thing that's creeping, this crawly, this creeper. And then you see it's a very big plant actually. I've got them growing here. This is actually the pepper. Yeah, pepper that after it starts to fruit, then I will be able to get the pepper pots lah. And the rest of it are all flowering plants, just to have a combination. Okay, the rest are all flowering plants. Here I've got one lemon tree. Everything is growing in pots. Yeah, because when you grow them in pots, when you plant anything in pots, they are called container planting. That means you contain them, you plant them in a pot. Because our weather is so erratic, it rains so heavily and there's a lot of strong wind, etc. So when you plant them in pots, you tend to contain the the soil as well as the fertilizer from being washed away from erosion, from the wind and the rain. Because otherwise, I used to plant a lot on the ground, but I find there's a lot of problem because of the rains and the wind. So they will erode my soil, and it degrades the quality of my. So here, of course, I have got other smaller plants as well, which they grow pretty well because my soil is very good. Okay, so in front here, the rest of it is combination as well, but I want to bring you to this patch at the back here because, initially I'm like a lot of people are, oh, like the Mat Salleh, they're like, oh, one part of the garden is all the ornamentals, the pretty, pretty one. And then near the kitchen, you will plant all your vegetables. So I tried to do that, So come, let me just show you. This part behind here, which is the closest to my kitchen, is where I tried to plant my vegetables. I say I tried because I wanted to let you know that you don't necessarily succeed all the time. So it doesn't matter if you don't succeed. It's a trial and error. But what's most important is that you keep on trying. So I tried planting my vegetable patch at the back here because I thought, oh, this place quite sunny, isn't it? Like for right now, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. You get nice sunshine coming in, isn't it? So I thought, oh, okay, it's close to the kitchen door. So I'm going to plant my vegetables here. So I have got my vegetable patch over here. There, you can see I've got some really big ones as well. For example, this one here is this gigantic tree here is what you call it now? This limau purut. Yeah, this gigantic limau purut tree, which is over 10 years old. Of course, which home is not, which home is complete if you don't have the curry plant. My curry plant last time was like 30 feet tall. I keep chopping and chopping and it keep giving me a lot of babies. I've got a lot of little curry babies all over. And here is where I tried to plant my vegetables. As I said, I believe in companion planting. So when you have companion planting, you try not to weed as much as possible because you don't want to disrupt the ecosystem, you see. So here, okay, I'm going to move them a bit because I allow these other plants to grow together with my vegetables. So you see this one is the sawtooth coriander. I think they call this Javanese coriander as well. I let it grow together with all these other plants as well. This is also a kind of a vegetable, which you can eat. Yeah, and then you see it growing together with my torinias, some flowers as well. I've got some more seedlings of the pepper here. And behind here, you can see ginger. Yeah, it's growing up from the pot here. And then, of course, one of the easiest plants to grow would be what do you call it now? This is the Brazilian spinach. Very easy to plant. Just poke in and then it will grow. Yeah. So you see that, ayo, why like so messy like that, right? And here is supposed to be kangkong. You see, ayo, why is my kangkong so sad? I'm going to come to that later. Why is the kangkong looking so sad? And over here, there is, in fact, at the back there's some chili, but it's not very big and it's covered by the flowers. So here I have got some, what do you call it now? This one is Mexican oregano. Yeah, it's a kind of herb, yeah, which, I think most Chinese will be familiar with this. You put this to boil with some rock sugar and it's good for cough and colds, yeah. And then over the other side there, I've got a pot that has got this thing. So just now I have got a pot that has got ginger, isn't it? So here I've got a pot that has got what do you call this now? Turmeric. Yeah, turmeric. So all these are very easy to grow. Basically, you just have a pot of soil, and then you can just put the turmeric that you buy from the market. Yeah, just put them into the ground, and they would grow. So what exactly is the problem here? Remember, I was telling you now that uh, some people say that, oh, I don't have knowledge in planting vegetables. So I can tell you from experience that, and also from what I've learned in permaculture, that what most vegetables really need is actually sunshine. Yeah, we are like, oh, okay, what, if you were to look at this section here, you will say that, oh, okay, what, isn't it? It's a nice sunny spot, isn't it? But it comes from observation. So I have been observing, why is my vegetables not doing so well? They're supposed to be doing far better than this. They're supposed to grow very bushy. But over the last 1 year, ever since MCO happened, everybody started gardening again, isn't it? I used to do that long time ago, but I stopped because of work. Again, I'm addressing the factor of time. Everybody says, oh, I don't have time. So now everybody's working from home, so we do have the time. So I come back to starting my gardening again, and I discover, hey, something is not right lah. Why are they not growing as well as they should? So I discovered, actually it's the sun. It's not getting enough sun. So even though this location, I do get maybe up to about 3 hours of sun from the morning, about 9:30 onwards, right up to about 11:30. After that, I don't get sun anymore. So that's about 3 hours of sun. Isn't that good enough? No. Vegetables need at least a minimum of 6 hours of good hot sunshine. So imagine, every time you think about vegetable farms, what is it you have in
Sorry,
your head?
again.
I was talking about, having 3 hours of sunshine only. Yeah, so yeah, move slowly. Okay, so here as I said just now, I only get about 3 hours of sunshine every day. Even though now we feel that, oh, everything like growing very nice, right? But I know that it could be better. So it is not growing as big and as it's not growing as luxuriously as they should lah. Okay, I mean, you compare them to the kind of vegetables that we see in the market. So I feel that, oh, this is not the growth that I expected. It should be far bigger than this. So how do you know whether they're getting enough sun or not? That will be your question, isn't it? Because I said, oh, you need to have 6 hours of sunshine. So in the farm, you remember we always see some pictures of farms, isn't it? They're all in this wide space, and it's like, wow, scorching hot like that. So most vegetables, green leafy vegetables in particular, they need to have a minimum of 6 hours of sunshine. So remember that, yeah, 6 hours of hot sun for all vegetables. Why? Because they are green leafy vegetables. They need to have chlorophyll. So they need to have sun to make chlorophyll. All right. So for example, I want to show you this bayam. This kangkong here is like, ayo, so sad lah. It's so small. How to eat? Isn't it not enough for me to fry also? Tiny looking one, because it doesn't get enough sunshine. Only about 3 hours. So what is the solution? Yeah. So most of you are also thinking, oh yeah, like that. I live in a condo, in a condo, I don't even have enough sunshine. So what you need to do is you have to observe which is the location that you would have the most sun. So you will go to the place that you have the most sunshine, at least 5 to 6 hours a day. And then from there, you'll be able to plant your vegetables lah. Okay, so I'm going to bring you to a different location now, mainly, as I said, because I have discovered that this location doesn't help for me to plant my vegetables. So it's very important that when you have got um, like when you want to start planting, you have to know the characteristics of the plants lah. No, some plants, they like damp areas and a little bit shaded. So after I started planting downstairs, and I discovered, yeah, the plants not growing as well as they should, because they're just not getting enough sun. Yeah. So if they're not getting enough sun, that means we have to move somewhere else lah. So I moved all my vegetables upstairs to the balcony. Yeah, because here after 12 o'clock, I start having very, very bright sunshine right up to about 6:30 p.m. So I get 6 hours of good sun. So as for yourself, you're wondering, yeah, how am I supposed to know whether that place has got enough sunshine or not? That's where observation comes in. You really have to observe. Having a garden and gardening is almost like having children. You have to know the characteristics. You have to know the space, the surroundings in which they grow, and then from that understanding, you'll be able to manage better and to be able to find out what is going wrong and how you can modify that. So I started planting my vegetables here on my balcony. So if some of you are saying that, oh, I don't have the space, I really don't need much space. This is all the space that I have So it's as good as the balcony that you might have in your condominium, or let's say you're staying in a terrace house and you just have a small little space either in front of your house, beside your house, or wherever. This is just about enough space. And from here you can see, you try and guess how many vegetables I have just in this tiny space of maybe about, at the most, maybe 5 feet, 5 times 2 feet. Here I think I have about 11 species of edible plants here lah. And again, as I always talk about companion planting, yeah, I would have a combination of edibles and non-edibles. So here, let's just go a bit by bit. So camera person go slowly. Yeah. So at first, of course, I have some ornamentals lah. This one, we all know is the Calesia repens. So I just like how it looks like a ball. So here is daun selom, yeah, daun selom. And then this one is the kangkong. You see, my kangkong is growing so much better here than from downstairs. Downstairs is like so sad. This kangkong is barely 3 weeks old, and you can see that it's already so tall. So this is planted from seed. After this, it's going to start to grow big and fat, because here they get enough of sunshine. Now, this is what happens when you don't have enough sun. Just to compare, now this one is one pot of kangkong also that I brought from downstairs. So from downstairs, actually, I used to have this pot, this pot of kangkong. I brought this from downstairs. So this kangkong was like the one downstairs lah, very skinny and very, very, not very nourished like this lah, very skinny only. This one is already very old, maybe about 4 months and still so skinny. Whereas compared to the one up there is only about 3 weeks, same size. So what happens when they don't have enough sun? Then they will start to grow so tall. They crawl everywhere. See, this is actually kangkong, but it grows long like this. So of course by now it's not anymore lah. It's a very old. Once they grow old, then they will start to flower and then they will produce seeds. So I will be able to harvest the seeds, then I can begin the next cycle of planting. Yeah. So here also I have, in the same pot, I also planted some serai lah. You can see some serai stuck here and then they're starting to grow. So these are all very, very common vegetables that we use every day in our kitchen. So this is serai. It's growing here already. Yeah. So it's sharing the pot with my very sad looking kangkong lah. I'm like, okay lah, since you don't want to grow so well lah, I'm just going to just put you in a pot together and make friends with each other. Okay. So every plant that I'm going to show you that's growing here on my balcony are the ones that are taken from the kitchen, meaning we buy them to eat. After we eat really, I would cut them up and I would plant them. So starting with this one, this one, it looks a bit sad now, but previously it was actually growing very, very well. This one is they call it what, wong tai choy, is it? Yeah, so this one is a very delicious vegetable. So this one, I just bought it from the market basically. After eating it, I just had it planted. I'm going to have a very short demo later on how we plant this. So what you need to do is just to buy one batch from the supermarket. Once you eat ready, then you just chop it up and you can plant them. You see, yeah. So this one is a bit old because I was keeping it to show you guys lah. Otherwise, every time I keep eating it, I'll finish already. So you start to see some red spots and all that lah. So some people say, oh, can still eat. Of course, if it's too bad, I wouldn't eat it. But if it's just minor like this, we can still eat them because these are just plant deficiencies or plant bugs. So not bugs actually, is something to do with the soil. So they will affect the plant, but then it doesn't affect the human. So we can still eat it if it's not too severe. No. So my whole garden is organic, by the way. I don't use any organic, what do you call that? Any fertilizer. I wanted to show you my compost downstairs. I still forgot, but never mind. There's a smaller one here. So above this vegetable here, I've got a chili that's growing. So behind the chili, I have got this pucuk manis. Yeah, this pucuk manis. As I said, these are all planted from the kitchen. That means I eat them. After eating already, then I will just poke them into the soil and then they will start growing. Yeah. Another one that you can just poke and plant is also the kasum. Daun kasum. So daun kasum is something which, when you buy them from the supermarket, after you have eaten them already, just have to soak the stem into water. They will grow roots. After they start rooting, then you can plant them. Yeah. Or sometimes you don't even have to root them. You can just poke them into the soil. Then they will also grow. And then you will see that here also I have a combination now. I tend to plant them together with flowers and vegetables together because it will distract the insects, as I said. So this is the lantana. It gives off a very strong smell, and of course, it's got very pretty flowers, different colors here as well. Here also, I've got another vegetable that is growing here. Some of you may be familiar with the Javanese ginseng. So if I grow this long enough, at the bottom, at the root, it will have actual like ginseng like that. Yeah, Javanese ginseng, which you can chop up and make into soup. But if I don't want to wait for the root, I can actually eat the leaves as well. The leaves are very tender. They're very delicious to be eaten as just like ulam like that lah. Okay, so since we are in this topic lah, as I said, my garden is entirely organic, isn't it? So when you have a garden that's entirely organic, there is always the threat of having bugs. So people are like, ayo, what do I do with bugs lah? Want to spray this, want to spray that. Should I use the garlic lah? Should I use the chili lah? Yeah, some people tend to do that. They would make their own pesticides by getting a combination of garlic and chili. You grind them and then you keep them to ferment. And then every other day or so, you just have to mix them with a little bit of, you just use a bit, all these your homemade pesticides or fertilizers, don't use a very big amounts. What you do is every time you make your own fertilizers or your own pesticides, which I cannot cover today because there is very limited time, you just put a very small amount, then you fill it with water. Yep. So just small amounts of either the fertilizer or your pesticide made of garlic and chili, that's for pesticide. But if you're using it for fertilizer, it can be things like your fruit enzyme, etc. So just put a small amount, then you fill it with water, then you can just spray on them now. So if let's say you have an organic garden like mine, you will still sometimes tend to have pests. For example, you will tend to have this mealybug there. See, this mealybug is very common, especially when you have got chilies. Can you see this white one here? Can you guys see this white bug here? Yeah. So, most people are like, oh my God, I have the mealybug. What do I do? I just squash them, go and die. That's it. Habis cerita, nothing. Yeah. So, of course, there are times when the infestation is so bad, it'll be all over. So, when I have got very massive um, infection, then I'll either get rid of the plant or I take water and I'll shoot them and I'll wash them off. But otherwise, every day I will spend about 5 minutes. Then I will see whether there are any bugs or not. There, I still see a couple of mealybugs here, one or two. So as I said, it's like taking care of children. You see that, you have got small little problems. You can get rid of them fast, because if you don't get rid of them fast, then they will start to spread. So once they spread until the infection is very severe, then you cannot save really lah. Yeah. So on top here, coming back to the on top part. Oh, here also I've got a bit of herbs. In fact, downstairs also I have a lot of herbs, which I didn't have the time to show just now. So here also I have some other herbs. This one is the one, I think in Chinese they call it the kunet sim or something. I don't know. My friend was telling me that they use this for the lei. Yeah, I think it's called mugwort. Yeah, mugwort. It's got a very nice smell, which when we pluck the time, I think they use it for lei. Yeah. So these are herbs, which sometimes they're bitter. I guess you put them in, you make a sort of tea with it, and they all have a very strong smell. Yeah, so it's good, because sometimes when you grow things, it's not just to eat, it's also to to help your senses as well, your smell, your taste, and all that. So not necessarily everything that we plant have to taste good. Sometimes they may not taste good, or they may not smell good, but it serves a different purpose to ignite your senses, in different ways. And here I've got one pot of pagaga as well. This pagaga also I tried to plant downstairs, and it didn't grow very well. So I had it moved upstairs, and it seems to be doing far better lah. So of course I think it has to do with the amount of sunshine. So remember, if you don't remember anything I said today also, because the camera lah, whatever lah, not doing very well, just remember one thing. If whatever I said, so if you don't remember, just remember that when you plant vegetables, most of them will need to have hot sun for 6 hours. 6 hours of hot sun. Okay, that's the most important thing that I want you to take away from today, even if you don't remember anything else. Just remember what I showed you from downstairs. I don't have enough sunshine. Once I bring them up here, you see, wow, they all grow like, wow, so bushy. Even the mint that I was planting. So here I have got 2 pots of mint, and sometimes it doesn't have to be very fancy. I'm just growing them in some recycled pots. So this is an old kwali, an old frying pan. I just poke holes and then bottom, and then again, these are all planted from your kitchen. So after you have finished eating them, you just need to, you need to cut them and then you just put them in some water, and then it will start to grow roots. Once you start to grow roots, you can just poke them in, and then they will grow. See, now it's growing very well here, but downstairs, it was so pathetic, not enough sun. Yeah, so remember, vegetables, they all need 6 hours, 6 hours of hot sun. Here I have some, I'm trying to grow um, some spring onions and all, just only starting. Yeah, so after some time, you would see that. Lah. So here in one small pot also, I have got some sarai. Yeah, so I don't have to go running to the shop. Lah, and also sometimes we feel that, oh, I don't think I have space. I don't know how much of space do I need, So you can plant things in small quantities. One of the experiences I have, because last time I used to work in a farm, sort of like a farmer, and we tend to plant things in big quantities. And when I scale down to planting for the family, I also have the same concept, and we want to plant things in big quantities. And we plant things which we feel that, oh, it's nice to plant these things. But when you have limited space, limited time, you will start to prioritize. Plant only the things that you and your family will eat. If it's something which your family doesn't like to eat, then don't plant it lah. You're just wasting your time only. You just plant after that, nobody wants to eat it. And don't plant them in big amounts. Just plant them in small amounts, enough for your family to eat. So for example, like you see, I plant kangkong also just only enough for, one time to eat. And remember to practice this thing that is known as soil rotation. Yeah, crop rotation rather. So let's say now I plant this kangkong here, and after I finish, planting them and I finish eating them already, I wouldn't use the same pot to grow kangkong first. I'll use the next crop must be some other thing lah. So when you rotate the soil, rotate the crop, that means you don't plant the same plant immediately after, because these plants they tend to have their own favorite nutrients. So once you have planted one particular crop, like for example, now I plant kangkong, the kangkong would have depleted whatever are their favorite nutrients from the soil, nitrogen, etc. So immediately after, I would not plant again kangkong. I would plant something else, maybe groundnuts, maybe salom or some other thing, you see, because it would it will allow the soil to regenerate itself before I replant again kangkong, maybe 3 crops later. So rotate your crop. Don't plant the same crop in the same pot of soil over and over. Okay. So I have even this side here, I have got some kadok, daun kadok. Daun kadok is very easy to grow. This is the one that they use for the Thai dish, isn't it? That nam kong, I think they call it. Yeah. So very easy to grow. If you can just find some, just poke them in a pot or a soil somewhere, and then it will grow easily. And again, I practice companion planting. I don't like to plant things by themselves. As much as possible, I just like to mix them with other things so that as I said, it's called companion planting lah, so that bugs will get confused and then they won't come and disturb, don't come and disturb my crops. Yeah. So here I've got a mini compost bin, not very big. The one downstairs, which I forgot to show you just now, is a gigantic one. So whatever I remove from my plants, I would put it here and it turns into compost. So at the end of the day, they would all be turned back into soil or like fertilizer like that. Yeah, at the bottom here. And then I would put them back into the soil once they started to degrade and to break down. So I make my own fertilizers most of the time. So that will probably be another day because making own vegetables also takes a long time. Yeah. What is the time now anyway? Let me just check the time. Okay, just nice. Okay, I have prepared some bits here. So just in case some of you are wondering, so exactly how we plant, I'm just going to just give a very short demo. Yeah. So, for example, like I was saying just now, a lot of these plants that I have right here are the ones that I use in the garden, right? So, okay. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to have a very short demo. Let's say now You bought this from the market, okay? This yu chai, emperor vegetable, okay? So you're wondering, so how where to cut how to plant Okay, I'm just going to show you a short demo lah. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut them here and show you as though you had just bought it from the pasar. Yeah. So see, that's the nice thing when you have your own vegetables. You can harvest them anytime. So you don't have to keep running to the market every time you want to eat a little bit of vegetable, especially things like curry, like serai or pandan. Or everybody should have them. They're so easy to grow. So never mind. Let's just say that. Oh, okay, you just bought this from the market. So what are you supposed to cut to grow them, right? So this is how I would cut them. So let's say now, you bought this from the market. Now, how would you cut them? Yeah. So cut them. Of course, these parts are too tender. If they are too tender, then they wouldn't be suitable for planting. So if you do have the intention to buy them to plant, then you would buy the ones that are a little bit tougher, that are hard. Yeah. So the hard ones, they are matured enough for planting purposes. So when you buy the vegetables, then you can tell the difference. So, you cut them this way to cook, isn't it? So let's see, where are the tougher ones? Yeah, this one's a bit tougher. Yeah, it's a bit hard. So what I would do is, I would cut off the leaves. This is for you to eat, isn't it? So you cut off the leaves to eat. Okay, so you cut them exactly where you can find the knots. So this knot is where the young shoot will grow. The knot here and the knot here. The knots here. So you would maybe cut 3 knots like this. Okay. So when you plant it, these are where the shoots will grow. Here, here, and here. Yeah. So same one here like this. So the next time when you buy these vegetables, you would know that, okay, you can actually plant them so that the next time you don't have to buy anymore. You just buy one time, then you can continue eating them for years and years, Same one like this, see? So there you go. Yeah, so here, it will grow from here. The knots will grow the leaves. So we have a few knots here that will allow us to regrow our vegetable. Okay, one more time. Okay, here. So I cut off the leaves that we can eat, and then there. I just cut it here. Yeah. So sometimes people ask, what's the difference? Why is it I don't cut straight and why should I cut sideways? Because when you grow sideways, basically, when you cut sideways, you give more space, more space for contact with the soil. Because the soil is the soil is where the roots will grow, and that's where the plant will have more contact with the nutrients, because they get their nutrients from the soil, just like the way we eat. So plants also need to eat, and they will eat from the soil. Okay, so this is what I'll do. I'll just have a few, that the ones in which you get from the market. So I'm gonna just cut. Just cut everything, and then you'll be able to just get some of the tougher ones. Okay. So how do we plant them? Yeah, so like that lah, just like that. Okay. Some people like to soak the base here in rooting powder, but for me, I don't believe in all that lah. As much as possible, I try to keep things very simple, because actually planting is very simple. This is the very basics of human survival. People in the past, that's how they survive. You don't need to have what rooting powder lah, this lah, that lah. What you need to do though is just to check on them every day to make sure whether they have bugs or not, etc. Okay, so I cut like this already. What I need to do, you prepare your soil. So once your soil is already prepared, you just poke them in. Yeah. So typically, I don't like to poke them in individually, because it's actually about energy lah. So I tend to poke either 2 or 3 sticks together, like this. Yeah. So it's actually very simple lah. Yeah. So I just poke it in here. Just poke in about 2 inches into the soil. And why is it I say, it's about saving the energy? Because when you poke them in 2 or 3 together, So it forms a form of support, So whenever there is sun or rain, etc., it wouldn't lose all the soil, and it wouldn't get over dry if it's too sunny, or over wet if it's if it rains too hard lah. So, and sometimes when you plant two or three together, if one dies, then you can just the other one will survive lah. So I'll just plant them like this. It will start to grow leaves and start to grow bushy like this lah. So I just have to put them like this, and then maybe next month, if we can have another session or whatever, I don't know, it will grow again. Here also you can see here in this spot, I actually poke some garlic. It will grow actually over here. I just poke some garlic here, mainly because I like to have some garlic leaves in the garden. Garlic gives off a very strong smell. So because of the fact that it gives off a very strong smell, it really deters the bugs. Bugs don't like to come. Yeah. So I've got two more other pots here, which I've really put some vegetables as well. You're wondering, right, why is it I only have all the green leafy vegetables? Why I don't want to plant things like terong, or to have brinjals, ladies finger. I used to plant them outside my house, and they were fruiting like crazy, a lot of brinjals, etc. But you see, as I said, if you want to plant anything, you must understand your surroundings. You must understand your space that you're growing in. My place here is full of monkeys. So I remember I used to have like, the entire tree, brinjals, full of brinjals, and the monkeys came and then they bite everything off. So you have to understand the kind of wild energies that you have. In permaculture, they're actually called wild animals. Wild animals will consist of heavy rain, storm, erosion, monkeys, wild animals. They will come and attack your crops. So when you understand that, okay, these are the wild energies that is beyond your control, then you don't plant those things because I know that if I plant also, I'm not going to eat them. The monkeys are going to end up eating them. So I only plant the things that monkeys don't eat, or other animals, even like squirrels, they don't like green leafy vegetables. Okay, I will plant these things, so I don't have to fight with them. After all, nature came first before human beings, so we have to respect that balance. Okay, so I've come to the end of the demo. I'm going to open up to Q&A. I'm going to move over to my computer. Um, you must have a little bit of knowledge on what is the kind of vegetables that like sun, and what is the kind of vegetables that like a little bit of shade. Because when you have that kind of knowledge, then it'll be easy for you to find the right location and the right space for it. So from my experience and from planting, I know that okay, most of these plants that I have downstairs here in my garden is not doing very well. So that's the reason why I started shifting them to another location where I know that they will get at least 6 hours of sun. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the video very quickly, and give me just about 5 seconds for me to move to another location. Okay.
All right, friends here. Okay, so Lijin, that's the first question someone asked, yeah. What kind of soil did you use?
Yes, somebody was asking about soil, right? Yes, actually, I have here. When you talk about planting, basically these are I cannot see. Okay, basically, what you need is to know the sun, the soil, the seeds, the kind of species, and the selection of plants, right? So soil is very important. In fact, every gardener will tell you, you feed the soil, not the plant. So it was a very good question. What kind of soil do I need? And again, what kind of soil would also depend on what kind of plant. Yeah, certain plants you need to have more compost soil. Certain plants you need to have a good combination of both. Certain plants you need to have more clay soil. Certain plants you need to have a more sandy soil. So you need to understand the nature of the plant that you are planting. So for instance, when I'm planting things that are roots, for example, when you mean roots, so it will be things like ginger, like turmeric. So these kind of rooted plants are yam, sweet potato. You will need to have a more sandy soil, because if you plant this kind of soil with too much of clay or too much of a compost, what happens is you would have your roots, they will all decay, they will all rot because the soil is too damp. Yeah, so you need to have more sand, a mixture of 50% sand and 50% of soil and compost. Compared to, let's say, you are planting something like kangkong, selom, pegaga. These are the kind of vegetables and herbs that would need more moisture. They love wet, they love water. So you need to have more compost soil, more clay soil compared to sand. So maybe just 10% of sand or 80% of compost, as well as clay soil. See, so it depends on the kind of plant that you're planting. And then again, your question will be, so how are we supposed to know? So again, it comes to the knowledge. So you have to learn about this. Either you learn by trial and error, or you just have to go on gardening groups. I tell you now, on Facebook, there's so many gardening groups. You just have to put in there gardening, you can find them. There are some that focus on planting ornamentals. There's Gardening Malaysia. Gardening Malaysia Facebook group is mainly for ornamentals, but sometimes they also have people who will share about planting vegetables, etc. There's also groups that specialize in only focus on planting vegetables. I think there's one that's quite good that's called My Edible Garden. Then there's another one there's the Swag SWAG. There's a Facebook group that's very active that's called Swag SWAG. Yeah, that one is for people to exchange plants. There's another one that's called plant acquisition Facebook group. That one also where people can buy plants, people can exchange plants. See, so all these are all Facebook groups that you can share, that you can learn about people who have been planting. So you can get a lot of information from them, and you know something, you can get a lot of free plants from them, because gardeners, we love to share. If not for the fact of the MCO, I would welcome you guys to come here and we can have an online session, which I think will be far more fun. You have some hands-on experience, then you can look around the garden, and you can bring home some as well for you to plant. So now things have changed, right? This is a new normal. So that's about soil. There's also another question here about composting, right? So I love to talk
Yeah,
about
how do
composting.
you decompose your own organic fertilizer? How long does it take to turn into soil, etc.?
Compost is a huge topic, and it will require one whole hour, because composting is a major component in gardening. So I'm just going to tell you very briefly. So you have said, how do I decompose? Actually, when you say decompose, it's already wrong. There are two kinds of composting. So when you say decompose, decompose basically means the decaying of something. So it's different from composting. When we mean composting, basically it's a controlled environment where you allow your kitchen waste or your garden waste to be turned into very rich fertile fertilizer. So how long does it take? It would depend on how well you manage it. See, so some people don't understand what's the difference between compost and decompose. Decompose is when you have a dead animal and it just breaks down, and you have all these problems like the smell. Okay, when something decompose, that means the busuk, it will go bad and it will smell. Whereas when you do composting, that means it's in a controlled environment. Composting does require certain knowledge. See, so a lot of people say, I cannot tahan the smell, and then I got all the leachate. So that's what you mean by decompose, like a dead animal dying. Yeah? Whereas when you do composting, there is no smell, there are no flies, there are no animals like rats or flies, etc., because you're doing it correctly. And the secret is actually in the ratio. There is a ratio when you do composting. Usually it's 50-50, but if you want to go into more details, there are actually, as I said, composting is one whole topic, which probably will take an hour. So depends on what kind of plants you are talking about, because different types of composting, you will have different results, you see, where you need to have more wet material, more nitrogen compared to carbon, and then others will be more carbon compared to nitrogen, depending on what you're planting, because it will have different results, whether you're planting big fruit trees or you're planting vegetables that need to have a nitrogen boost. So compost, I will keep that for another topic. You'll find a lot of information online. But how long does it take to turn into soil? It depends on the way you manage it as well. The more often you stir it, you aerate your compost, the faster it will break down. But the secret in compost actually is not about the time. It's about your ratio. Yeah. So just to keep things very simple, a good compost should have a good 50% of carbons and nitrogens. Yeah, and if you want to keep it very simple, you just do like a lasagna style like that. So for example, you have a big tong, maybe it can be even a big flower pot, must have holes at the bottom for leachate to go through. And then you just layer them. You just layer them. The bottom layer must always be dry, and the top layer must always be dry. When I mean dry, it will be carbon. So carbon will consist of things like shredded paper, dry leaves, your kitchen waste, sorry, your garden waste. Kitchen waste would mean things that are wet lah. So that would be the nitrogen. So as I said, it's quite complicated lah. You take 1 whole hour to talk about composting lah. So how long does it take? The more you turn it, the better you manage it, the faster it will turn into compost. Yeah. Um, any other question? Okay.
Yeah, we have next question. What soil is best for the growing green onion? Because a lot of time the onion fail to grow at okay.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Remember just now about the first question they asked about soil, isn't it? That I was telling you that, the soil depends on what you're planting, ma, correct? And my answer was that if you're planting things that are roots, so onion is root, isn't it? It's a root plant. So if you don't have a good combination of sand, that means dry soil, so it shows that your soil is too wet already. There's too much of clay, too much of clay, too much of carbon, sorry, organic material that is compost. That means sometimes people say that, oh, compost is good, isn't it? Because it's fertilizer, it's rich soil, but too much also is bad, depending on what you're growing. So onions, garlic, what else? Things that are roots, sweet potato, things that are all rooted lah, things that are all roots, make sure that you have enough combination of sandy soil lah, sandy soil. So how do you know what is sandy soil and what is clay soil, what is compost soil? Actually, you can try an experiment, So what you do is you put them in a cup, you put them in cups, and then you poke holes at the bottom, then you pour water over it, and you see how long it takes for the water to flow down. Yeah, I've done that experiment before. Again, today we don't have the time. So you put 3 cups and you compare them. So when you put sand, so where do you find sand? Sand will be like, on the riverside, you can find sand. Yeah, certain places there will be other types of a soil where they are like rocky, So you put them into a little cup, you pour water over the sand, immediately you see water coming down already. Whereas compared to soil that has got more clay content, when you pour water, it retains the soil. It retains the water, sorry. So you pour water, then you see, how come at the bottom the water is not coming out? Because there is more clay in that soil. So compost is also like that. Compost is a very good combination actually. When you pour water into the cup, you find that the water doesn't drip off so quickly. That means, okay, that soil will retain moisture very well. So you don't put too much of water retention soil when you are growing things like onions, like garlic, like what do you call it now? Like sweet potato, anything to do with roots, rooted plants, you must have more sandy, well draining soil. Yeah. Yeah. So when you say your onions don't grow, it's because your soil is too damp. Yeah, and maybe you're not getting enough sunshine as well. Remember, yeah, as I said, even if you forget everything I say today, just remember that all vegetables they need hot sun. Yeah, you have to put them into the very hot scorching sun, at least 6 hours of hot sun. All right. Okay, let me see. Composting, yes, yes. Composting is actually an excellent topic. I love talking about composting
We will
because
next
it's,
round.
you know, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah. So composting actually has got different purposes, apart from giving your nutrients, giving nutrient back to the soil, it also helps you to make use of your kitchen waste. So it's a very good environmental kind of a practice for you to get rid of your kitchen waste. Instead of throwing them away, you can turn them into your own fertilizer. So you also recycle your own kitchen waste. So it's a very good way to be able to have what we call a closed loop. Yeah, a closed loop would mean that from the time you plant to the time you harvest to the time you eat, and after eating also you can still go back to the soil to replant it. So it's actually a closed loop. It's an entire cycle of life. Yeah, so nothing is wasted. It actually is a closed loop when you do that kind of gardening. All right.
Ms.Chan, thank you so much for all the tips. I have been trying to grow chili padi and chili and have and has never been successful. I wonder where I go wrong. Yeah, is it because chili needs a lot of water or a lot of sunshine or what other things?
Yes, chilies are, I don't know why everybody says chili very hard to plant because chilies tend to attract a lot of pests. Because you'll be surprised, insects and bugs, they love chilies as much as human beings. Even birds like chili, you know, they will eat the chili padi one, you know. I have chili padi that's full of fruit, and then the birds will come and eat it, you know. So
Mm.
funny, yeah.
Mm.
So, yes, a lot of people are not aware. Chilies are sun lovers. They absolutely love the sun. Yeah, so they need at least 6 hours, if not more, 6 to 8 hours of hot sun. So is your chili plant in a shaded area? Because you know sometimes we sayang the plant so much, we're like, ayo, so hot, so put it in the shade a bit under the porch, right? No, put them and torture them in the hot sun. They love hot sun. Don't put them in a porch. Don't put them in a semi shade. They love the same. They must be entirely out in the hot sun. Number two, they need a lot of compost material, because chilies, they love a lot of fertilizers. So you have to put fertilizers once a week at least. They love fertilizers one. Yeah, and water as well. To know what is a suitable soil for chilies, it will be a good combination, a good mixture. So you can have 50-50 of compost soil and the normal soil. So it's not actually a very fussy plant when it comes to soil. The only secret is only in the sunshine levels and the bugs, because chilies always attract a lot of bugs, especially the mealy bug that I showed you just now, the white one. Did you see the
Mm.
mealy bug that I showed just now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I tell you, ayo, that one, they love the chili, you know. So chilies, once you start planting, you must every day check, you know, whether they have got ants or not, because the mealy bug is brought by ants. Ants are the carrier. So if you
Oh.
start to have your chili and you start seeing, hey, why got so many ants? Then you start to be very suspicious, because within 1 week you see the mealybugs start to appear. And the mealybugs, they don't eat the top of the plant, you know. They tend to go underneath. So you feel that, oh, my chili is very healthy. Within 1 week, your whole chili start to go dying already, you know. Next thing you know,
Yeah.
yeah, next thing you know, you look underneath the leaf, it's full of these white bugs, you know. It's been totally infested by mealybugs, so it's too late already to save the plant. So every day you will just check to see whether it got ants or not. And if you start to see, oh, there are 2 or 3 of the white mealybugs, you just do what I did lah. Because I'm entirely organic. I try not to put fertilizer. I try not to put the, insecticide and whatever. You just squash them with your finger, no problem one. It's not going to bite you. Just squash them
Okay.
up. Yeah, just squash them, because I remember my friends are like, oh, I should spray this, I should spray that. I said, no need. You either just use, either you use, if you're very girly to do your hands, just use a wet wipe. Just get rid of them with your hand. Just get rid of them. But you can do that only when it's a small infestation. If your infestation like the whole plant already, you so sian. You have to wipe the whole plant. But yeah, can be managed. So chili basically just these 2 things, sunshine and bugs. So one tip for planting chili, which I found that is very successful, is actually companion planting. You saw my chili plant outside. Wow, so fat, isn't it? Because I planted together with the lantana. So lantana is a very smelly flowering plant. These bugs that like to attack the chili, they don't like things with strong smell. So I found what is successful is to try companion planting when you have chili. So for example, in your pot of chili, so you have one chili plant there, isn't it? At the side of it, you put 2 or maybe about 4. I tend to put 4. You plant 4 bulbs of either garlic or onion. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You put 4 bulbs of onion or garlic, and you find that you don't have that many problems with the bugs. It will keep the bugs away. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Great. Can I ask you one more question?
No problem.
When
Just
you plant, yeah, when you plant, nowadays I notice a lot of people use the recycle bottle, the mineral water bottle and all that. Do you think that is healthy because they are plastic?
not a problem. These are the kind of problems, that I would say is all the first world problems, because we have become so conscious that we have, even small things like that is like, ayo, I know a lot of people always ask me, things like, can I use the rubber, the tire, can we use the
Yes.
tire for gardening? Can we use styrofoam boxes? Can we use plastic bottles? Totally not a problem. Because we are in the first world country, we are sometimes we complicate matters. We think that, oh my goodness, plastic got leachate, styrofoam got leachate and all that. I'm telling you now, the leachate is so minuscule that it is
Mm.
actually far less than the kind of pesticides that we are eating. when we buy the food from when we buy these vegetables from the pasar, the kind of pesticide that they use is far bigger amounts than the lechet that we worry about so much. So it's not a problem at all. In fact, the vegetables that you saw in my garden just now, the one on my balcony, it's all planted using the actually my chili, my tomato, as well as the vegetables just now. I think just now we didn't have a very good view, but they were all planted using the big size mineral water bottles. So I recycled them because I have so many plants that I ran out of pots. So I thought, oh, the size is a very good mineral water bottle. I just poke holes in the bottom at the side, just put in the vegetables. So the legit is very, very small. Don't worry about it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Yeah.
Um,
The only problem is actually the moisture levels lah. So when you say that you use mineral water bottles and all that, it depends on the size of the bottle that you're using. So if you're using bottles that are the 1 liter ones, that is too small, of course. Yeah. So when you choose the size of the pot, they must be big enough for the roots to grow. So if your pot is too small, if you're using the small size mineral water bottle, then I think it's not suitable lah. Use the big ones because the roots need to have space to grow lah. Yeah,
9
basically.
liter. 9 liter bottle.
Yeah, yang besar tu kan. Yes,
Betul.
the big one is very suitable. Yeah, I really love those bottles. And people throw away so many, so sometimes I will go and collect and put them and just poke holes. They're very good for planting. Yeah. Somebody was asking just now about watering. Yes. Watering actually depends on the weather, but typically I would say on a normal day like this, you water twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening lah. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with testing it. So don't be afraid to touch the soil. Touch the soil to see whether it's too wet or not. So how do you know whether the soil is too wet? Is when you touch the soil, okay? You touch the soil and you see whether the soil is sticking on your finger or not. If the soil is sticking on your finger, then you know the soil is wet enough. You don't have to water it. But when you touch the soil and you know that, oh, it doesn't stick to your finger, so you water a little bit. Okay, but when you touch the soil and it feels like it's cold, you just dig a little bit deeper and you feel that, oh, on top it may be dry, but the bottom layer seems to be wet enough, then you don't have to water lah. Yeah. So as I said, when you want to garden, it literally is like growing up, like bringing up children like that. You have to understand your plants just like you understand your children lah. So it's not as easy as you just throw the seed there and let it grow by themselves lah. Yeah. No, you have to take a look at it. You have to take care of it. I actually can see a very big difference when I'm looking at my garden every day. I would just don't have to spend so much time because I'm also a full-time staff. I work also every day. I work from 9 to 6 or so. I just take maybe about 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour, half an hour in the evenings. So just have to allocate that time. You don't have to do it full day like a full-time farmer lah. Just make sure you spend a little bit time to look at the progress of your plants. Then from there you'll be able to better understand and from there you'll be able to know whether to water more, water less. I really can see the difference. Let's say 2 weeks I don't go to the garden. I go and I can see already the things all the layu and then they don't do very well. But if I'm going every day, I can see their progress. Over 1 week, I can see that they're growing very nice and healthy. Really, there is a difference lah. Yeah. One more thing about vegetables planting also. It's not always very pretty one. Yeah, because like right now I haven't harvested the plants, so you see that wow, everything looks very nice and green. But once you start harvesting at time, you feel that the garden are very ugly, and sometimes they start to grow brown, they start to die, especially when you plant things like I don't have it right now because sometimes it's very messy. I don't plant it also because of the monkeys. For example, if you're planting beans, kacang panjang, kacang botol. I used to plant that a lot and then they will grow everywhere Then you have all your kacang panjang and your kacang botol. Oh, it was so nice. You can just pluck and eat fresh from the tree. Very, very nice. But I don't plant that now because of the monkeys lah. But what I'm trying to say is, when you plant these kind of vegetables, sometimes it's not pretty. Your garden will look quite ugly because usually when you have all these creepy, all these creepers, we call them. They creep all over, so all your kacang and all that, then there will be dry leaves and all that, so they look like half dead and all that, but they will still have a lot of fruits. So your garden a vegetable garden is not like a flowering garden. A flowering garden always look very pretty, but vegetable garden, they have their seasons. I know sometimes they, when during the harvest season, they don't look very pretty. Everything look half dead and all that. But still, they have got a harvest. And then after that, when you fully harvest, already, everything looks like half dead. So don't feel sad about it, lah. That's the reason why most people want to plant vegetables far away, at the kitchen behind, because they go through their seasons and they don't look pretty all the time. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. For those of you who are staying behind, I would imagine that you guys actually like growing lah. The rest all cabut lari. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, please feel free, feel free. I don't mind just staying on. It's just
Yeah.
good to just chit chat lah.
Thank you
So
so
much.
much for hanging on with us. I have one more questions. If the
No
rest
problem,
don't
no
have,
problem.
I
Go
have
on.
one more questions. Yeah. Growing vegetables, does it attract mosquito? Because my husband say don't grow too much because mosquitoes are coming. You see. My daughter also say the same thing. Yeah.
Actually, you plant anything also
What
will
is
attract mosquito, not because of the mosquito like the plants. Plants don't, mosquito don't eat plants one. Okay, the only reason why when you have a garden, whether it's flowers or vegetables, the only reason why you tend to have more mosquitoes is because there are more breeding spaces. And there are more breeding spaces because there are water catchment areas. Yeah, so it has to do with water catchment. It has nothing to do with when you plant vegetables, you have a lot of mosquito. Were you with me right from the start of my talk when I was downstairs?
No, no. I came in about 10:15.
Okay, never mind. There's a recording, so you can go back to the beginning because in the beginning I was showing how I planted the garden downstairs. And downstairs is in the, I have a very big garden downstairs. So downstairs, I tell you, there are a lot of mosquitoes. Yeah, because it's on the ground. So because I have so many plants and because also downstairs I do my composting and downstairs I have my my rainwater harvesting. So when I have rainwater harvesting, I have all my buckets there to keep rainwater. So yes, there I tend to have more mosquitoes because there are catchment areas for mosquitoes to breed. So you have water, then you tend to have mosquitoes. But upstairs, the place where I show you just now, I don't have mosquitoes because there's no water catchment area. Yeah, I don't have my rainwater harvesting area, number one. And number two, because it's too hot. Yeah, so when it's too hot, you don't find patches of water. So when there's no patches of water, mosquitoes will not breed. So when there's no chance for them to breed, then you don't find mosquitoes. So it depends on how you manage the garden as well. So downstairs, yes, I would say I have a lot of mosquitoes. But if let's say you keep your garden very clean and you don't have any water catchment areas, then there should be no mosquitoes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can tell your husband that lah. It's not the mosquito. It's not the vegetables that attract the mosquito. It's actually the water catchment.
Okay, great. So if you have another session on compost, I'll be keen on that because right now I just throw the peels and so on onto the plants there.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You can just trial and error lah. Yeah. When you water the plants, do you pour the water over the leaves or do you pour the water onto the pot near the roots? Yeah. Okay. Typically you would water them onto the soil. Yeah. As I said, I would say every gardener worth your salt, you would know that you feed the soil, not the plant, because the plant actually gets their nutrients from the roots. Just like us lah, this is our mouth, isn't it? We eat through the mouth. We cannot like put the food on our hand and then the nutrient absorb, right? So we eat via the mouth. Plants, they eat via their roots. So when you pour water over the plant, it actually does not have any effect on the plant. It only has an effect if you were to pour the water onto the soil. So you pour water on the soil, it will reach the root. Whereas if you throw water on the plant itself, what happens is you just keep the plant cool, and the water will dehydrate. So actually you lose water. You're actually wasting water lah. So it will have more impact if you water onto the soil instead of on the plant. Yeah. So since all of you are staying, I'm just going to add some tips which I think a lot of people my age, you're above 40, above 50, you would know this kind of tips. The best water to use for your plant is the water that you use, is the rice water. Seriously, my grandmother taught me that, and in the past I was like, yeah, so old fashioned, but I'm telling you, it's the best. the best water you can use, and your plants will all grow very, very well. But don't use the fresh one. So what I mean by the fresh one is that, when you have rice water, you wash your rice, and you pour out the water. Don't pour it into the drain. I tell you, this is like like diamond water like that. Everybody pours it down the drain. That is the best water that you want to use for your vegetables and your plants. They are so good. But don't use them fresh. You use them fresh also can, but if you keep them for a few days, once they become fermented, they start to smell like a rice wine. I tell you, your plants love it so much. It may smell a bit sour, but you know what it smells like or not? Any of you have used before SK2 or not? If you use SK2, SK2, there's they call that what already, magic water or something like that. Very expensive one. It costs a few hundred for a small bottle. The one that you put on your face, yeah. Actually, that is fermented rice water. It's just that they have it distilled and it looks very classy. But that is what it made from. Because I used to be a health writer, and I interviewed the guy, the founder of SK2. That was where it came about. It actually came about from the factory where they are producing rice wine. So rice wine, he discovered that these women who are working in the factory, when they produce a rice wine, all of them have got beautiful skin. So he discovered that fermented rice water is the secret to good skin, and it's also very good for plants, So if you're going to looking at the best water to use for your plants, just do that. Yeah, rice water, ferment it for 2-3 days, then only you water your plants. They love it. I'm telling you. Wow, you don't even need to buy fertilizer.
Okay, I have one question. My name is
Sure.
Satya. Okay.
Hi, Satya.
Elaine, you said that the rice water, when you clean the rice and then get the water, right? Okay, I tried this. I'm also a small time gardener. Okay, I've tried. Sometimes the rice we don't finish it. Sometimes go waste. Go bussy, right? So what I did, I uh, mix it with a lot of water with the rice, and I also tried on the plant. It worked very well.
Yes.
Yes, I is that only thing. And also, when we wash some beans, like kacang hijau, whatever, I use that water also. Do I have to keep that water as a fermented and then put it for the plant, or just directly use?
Just directly use, because those they will not ferment. Rice water will ferment.
Okay. Okay.
Only rice, because it's got sugar. See,
Ah,
rice contains starches. So the starch break down into sugar, and it's the sugar that is fermented, because fermentation only can happen if there is bacteria.
yes.
So the bacteria, there is bacteria, and bacteria exists everywhere. You see. So let's say now you compare, yeah. So this is the water that is your rice water. This is the water that you use to wash your beans. Okay. So the water that you use to wash your beans, they will not ferment, because beans does not have the starches and all that lah. It doesn't have the starch. So it will not break down into glucose, which is sugar, and the sugar is the one that feeds the bacteria that is in our surroundings. So it's also available in the water. Okay, so if you were to compare them both, usually you find that the water that you use to wash your beans, etc., they will not have the same amount. They will not ferment lah. Yeah, they will not ferment. They will still remain. Maybe it might ferment, but it will not have the same effect as using rice water. Rice water is really effective because of the starches. Because you can see the color also, isn't it? Yeah. When you wash beans, you see the water is still very clear. But when you wash rice, it's like it turns cloudy, isn't it? Because of the starches. It's the starchiness of the rice. Yeah. So it breaks down. Yeah. So it feeds the bacteria, and it's like, wow, so delicious. So yeah, it breaks down and it becomes a fermented water, which is very good for the soil. It's a soil enhancer lah.
Okay, another one more question. When we clean fish and all that, I also
Yes.
collect that water and mix it
Yes.
with the
Yes.
water. Is that also good?
Oh, that is excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fish water, is excellent for the plants. Just that a lot of people don't like it because the smell, and it attracts a lot of flies. Yeah, so when you water it over, if you have a big garden out in the space, like downstairs, I sometimes use fish water, but in my balcony, I don't use it because
Yeah.
it attracts a lot of flies. So yeah, so some people they're like, ayo, then the smell also not very nice lah. But if you have a big space, outdoor space, you have a lot of fresh air, then yeah, it doesn't matter.
I
But
do.
yes,
I
it's
do. I do.
Yes, it's very, very good. Yes, fish water, very good. In fact, there is also one session that I've conducted before on how you can make your own fertilizers. I don't know whether you have heard of this fertilizer that you make with the fish discards. That means the head and the bones and the bowels of the fish. Oh God, what is that called now? There's a certain fertilizer, no? It's very, very good, I tell you, yeah. So what you need is just to have a combination of the fish waste. So fish waste will be things like the head, the bones, and the stomach part.
Okay.
Equal amounts, so 50-50. Just put equal amount of the fish waste and same amount of the brown sugar.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just combine them together in a pot. So for example, my pot is this big. Okay,
Okay.
so you put in your fish waste. If your fish waste is this much, 50%. Yeah, cannot see. Yeah. Okay,
That's okay. I can understand.
Right, yeah. So let's say your fish waste is this much. So you have to put exactly the same amount of brown sugar on top.
Okay.
So you don't wash it, because once you wash it, then the magic is gone. So
Okay.
put all your fish waste inside here. Put the same amount of brown sugar, and then you mix them up.
Okay.
Okay. So once you mix them up already, cover with a cloth. Cover with a cloth, yeah, because you don't want to attract flies, and then you have a lot of maggots, which is fine if you're a seasoned gardener like me. Maggots doesn't matter. But for people first time, you're so geli lah, takut lah. Actually, okay, maggots are fine for the garden. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
So okay, put the fish, put the brown sugar, and then wrap it with a cloth and just tie with a rubber band. Every day you just have to stir it.
Okay.
Yeah, stir every day. Within 5 days, you open it up. Then you just have to sieve the liquid from inside. Yeah, so you sieve the liquid. You will find that from the fish waste, they will form one liquid, which is it looks and it smells exactly like ketchup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly like ketchup like that. No, really, it smells like the ketchup that we used to cook. In fact, I'm also starting to wonder, is the ketchup made from this or not? Yeah, smells exactly like ketchup, and you use that to water the plants. It's very, very good. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
little bit oily. Yeah, so use only small amounts, because if you use too big amounts, you kill all your plants.
Yes,
It's
yes.
too powerful already.
Yeah, I
Too
realize
powerful.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this fish waste, I can't even remember what's the name of it.
But doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know what? I got a beautiful, because I always wonder, I always throw the fish waste, I always, now
Ah.
I got a beautiful idea. I'm going to get some brown sugar and keep, so that whenever I do that, I fertilize it with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
either that
Thank
or
you.
you can just bury them, So as I said, composting is a very big topic. You can do
Yeah.
a pit compost. A
Yeah.
pit compost also you can do that. Yeah. Compost is 1 hour because there are about 5 different types of compost systems that we can all do. That's why I say we cannot cover it today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. What do you do with the waste after that? Oh, you're talking about the fish waste, is it? The fish waste just now. The fish waste that we have used to make the fertilizer, or the fresh fish waste. So fresh fish waste, just like what Satya was saying, she used to throw them away, but I'm telling you that you can use fresh fish waste can be made into fertilizer. Otherwise, you can. So what do we do with the waste after that? Isn't it? After I have poured the water already, so I have already taken the fertilizer for it, right? Yeah. So what do I do with the remaining waste, right? I would put it into my compost, or I would bury it. Yeah. So I don't throw them away, because this also can be used as a fertilizer as well. So the fish waste that I have used to make my fertilizer, I would compose that. Yeah.
Or you cannot reuse the waste anymore lah.
Reuse
Ah,
can. You're just like me, we tend to try to squeeze out every last bit of it, isn't it? So so for the fish waste, because it's also full of the liquid, the liquid is the magic. So what I would do is, before I would throw it away, I actually would pour water over it, and then I dilute it some more before I would pour them into bottles, and I will use those bottles to spray on the plant.
Ah.
Yeah, so I would dilute it.
Why do you spray on the plant instead of putting in the soil?
Yeah. This kind of this is not water. Just now the earlier question was when you water the plant, do you water on the plant or do you water in the soil, correct or not? So now you're asking about why do I spray on the plant. Now we are coming to a different topic, which is about fertilizers.
Oh,
Okay, so there are different type of fertilizer. The fertilizer that we normally buy is the dry ones, which we put on the soil.
yep.
But now we're talking about the fish waste, the fertilizer that I'm talking about, or let's say there's another type of fertilizer that we make from fruit waste. Fruit waste also makes a very good fruit enzyme. People call them garbage enzyme. Very good as well, which you can do for your own fertilizer. Yeah. These are what we call foliar fertilizers. Foliar basically just means liquid fertilizer. So liquid fertilizer is a little bit different from the dry fertilizer that we buy. Dry fertilizer, we put them onto the soil because it's to feed the bacteria on the soil. Foliar fertilizer will feed both. It will feed the plant as well as the soil. So typically I will spray it all over the plant because foliar fertilizers, they are like hormones. They are actually a hormone enhancer. So we spray them on the plant, on the whole plant, because when we spray them onto the leaves, it will encourage the leaves to grow more shoots. Yeah, so foliar fertilizers are actually is very good, especially for chili as well. Just now somebody was talking about chili, isn't it? Jacqueline, isn't it, talking about chili? Yeah, foliar fertilizers are very good for chilies. So you spray them on the whole plant, and you also spray them on the soil. The only secret to foliar fertilizer is actually the dilution. Don't be like me lah. Actually, I didn't do that. It was actually my friend, because I told her about the foliar fertilizer. Wow, then she went over enthusiastic. In the bottle, she put so much, oh, you don't. Because it will overkill, it will kill the plant. Because it's like over fertilized. It's just like when you take vitamin, or when you eat durian, for example. Everybody loves to eat durian, right? But you eat too much of durian, oh my God, you're gonna get a heart attack, end up in ICU lah, okay?
Yeah.
So don't take too much of anything, even fertilizer also. So foliar fertilizer, the secret is in the dilution lah. So we must only put just 10% only. So it depends on how big is your bottle lah. So let's say your bottle is this big, only a small amount of the fertilizer, then the rest is all water. Then you spray on the plant, and you can spray on the soil. So I think a lot of question people ask is, how often should I fertilize? Correct or not? Yeah. So usually for dry fertilizers, I would say, typically once a week or twice a week lah. But I'm so lazy because I try to use everything that I can make myself. I tend not to buy fertilizers. So I also don't buy those fertilizers. I use my own compost. I make my own fertilizers. So when you make your own fertilizers, sometimes they are not as strong as the commercial fertilizers that you buy outside, because you don't know what's in the fertilizer. They pump in all kinds of chemical. So when you use organic fertilizer, you tend to have to use more bigger amounts. So what I do is I will just put it in a spray, and I will just spray it like every other day. So it's like every day I will just spray a bit only, especially when in rainy season. Rainy season, you will have to fertilize your plants more. Like for example, have it ever occurred to you, why is it that vegetable prices become so expensive in rainy season, correct or not? You always read in the newspaper, right? Oh, harga sayuran meningkat disebabkan musim hujan, ya. Because during the rainy season, there's a lot of erosion, and it washes away, it dilutes all the nutrients in the soil. So during rainy season, in fact, it's not good for vegetables. Sunny season actually is best for vegetables. So during the rainy season, like right now, every day it tends to rain, isn't it? I find that I have to put more fertilizer lah. So I spray every day my plants, and I feel that it's okay. Yeah. So during sunny weather, I wouldn't spray so much, but during rainy weather, I would spray, with my foliar fertilizers. I spray every day, twice a day, so sometimes it doesn't matter, because of the erosion. The water will tend to wash away the nutrients from the soil. You will dilute the nutrient from the soil.
Okay, thanks you so much, Nikki.
No
I
problem.
tell you, I didn't know the farming. I mean, I'm just start to learn to do compost, though. So,
Oh,
so I don't know actually how to go about it. I would just simply dump the thing and then just
don't
spray.
do, yeah.
Ah,
If you simply dump, I tell you what, it will smell,
yeah, that's a problem.
because you are doing decompose. That means dead body. It's just like a dead rat, a dead cat, like
Ah,
that lah. So that is decompose, a decomposting of the materials. So that's why it's wrong already. You must have a ratio of 50-50. So when you put your vegetable waste, you must always layer it with dry leaves, or if you don't have dry leaves, if you don't have your own garden and you find, I don't know where to find dry leaves, then put shredded paper, or you put cardboard, or you put, it must have some dry materials. There must be a combination of wet and dry. So let's say you say, I don't have shredded paper, I don't have cardboard. How? Just put soil. Okay. In fact, if you were to Google, you Google, look at this solution that was produced by one NGO in Penang. It's called the 10-pot system. So you can use a gigantic pot to make your own compost as well. So as I said, the bottom layer and the top layer must always be dry material, isn't it? So if you don't have dry material, just use soil. Okay. So just get whatever crappy soil you can find and just layer your vegetable waste with the compost. That means, let's say now I have a gigantic pot. In fact, one day when we do compost, I will bring you downstairs where I have my big. I just buy the tong sampah, the big tong sampah, the black ones. Then you just drill holes. Then you just layer them like making lasagna like that lah. So the bottom layer will be dry leaves or soil if you don't have dry leaves. Then you throw your kitchen waste. So as soon as you throw your kitchen waste, you must cover it with one layer of brown material or soil. So just cover enough, maybe about 1 centimeter or 2 centimeter of brown material. So why is it that we can use soil? Because inside soil, there's a lot of bacteria, and the bacteria will help to break down your kitchen waste. At the same time, it will cover, it will cover your kitchen waste from the bugs, because when you don't have this, you're going to find that your compost, it will attract a lot of rats, a lot of flies, a lot of bugs. Oh, it's horrible and very smelly. Okay, when you don't do it correctly, compost is horrible, it's decomposed. So compost that is rightly done is actually very nice rich soil. I wish I can show you one day hopefully. If you have, I have downstairs in my big pots. They are nice and fluffy and soft, and they don't smell. They smell like earth. That's why people even call compost what do they call that? They call them gold. They call them brown gold. So it's as good as gold, there's one question here. Composting, do you put under the sun or under the shade? Yes, so for compost, basically, you can put them anywhere for as long as it can drain the water out. Because when you have compost, it tends to have a leachate underneath. Yes, so I would tend to put them in the hot sun, because when you have sunshine, at least it will dry up the leachate. If you put it in a wet place, that is when you find that it's more wet. So when it's more wet, then again your ratio is not balanced. You must always have the balance. It cannot be too dry, it cannot be too wet. I remember there was one time, I used to do community farming, community gardens. So in my community garden, people always invite me to help them to see their community gardens. So I remember I went to this community garden where these people they collected all this waste, all this leaf waste from the entire park, and it was so high. It was an entire hill of dry leaves, and something, it was sitting there for 3 years and it never composted. The dry leaves never composted because they don't have the right ratio. It was so dry that the bacteria have no food. Bacteria needs to have moisture in order to break down. So if you don't have enough moisture, it won't break down as well. And if it's too wet also, it will break down, but it will be very smelly. You'll be attracting a wrong type of bacteria. So you cannot be too wet, it cannot be too dry. That's the reason why I say it has to be a 50-50 balance. And if, let's say, when we have a composting session, I'll talk about a different type of how you can tweak the different type of compost to whatever you're planting. When you want to plant vegetables, when you want to plant trees, it's a different composition. All right. Okay, this is the last one. Okay, I'll explain again about.
Say something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just now you're saying about the fermented fish waste. I think you can get it in the voodoo. Is that what you can get the anchovy sauce?
Yes,
Malays use a lot of that.
Actually, you're right. You can use voodoo, but I tell you, itu adalah membazir lah, correct or not? You have to buy the voodoo for you to eat, Then you used to feed your plants with it.
Not so bad. You're using waste. Then the other thing, the fermented rice.
Hey, budu is
water.
not waste. Budu is for us to eat one there. Where got waste? But yeah, you make your own. You're right. When you make your own fish waste, it does smell like budu. Yeah. No, actually, it smells like ketchup lah. I wouldn't say it smells like budu. It smells like ketchup. Budu is a bit more fishy. This fish waste one, it doesn't have a fishy smell one. Very nice ketchup smell. No fishy smell. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that your SK2 thing, years and years ago, that your grandmother or great grandmother will always use bedak.
Yes.
That.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think it's similar to that,
You are
It's
right.
also fermented rice water or fermented rice.
Correct. You're right. You're
Right.
right. Yes. Yes.
How to
Yes.
do with the fermented rice?
Fermented rice is, when you cook rice, yeah,
The balance.
but you're talking about leftover rice. Actually, there is another technique where we can use leftover rice to make EM. EM is effective microbes. So that one will be a even better kind of fertilizer that we use. So basically, the fermented rice, you put them into a Tupperware. So you put them in a Tupperware, and then you were to put some dry leaves on top. The best leaves would be from the bamboo leaves. So you put the bamboo leaves on top, then you cover it with a cloth, then you leave the fermented rice with the dry leaves. You put it outdoors, or outdoor that is not under the rain lah, okay, for about I think 2 weeks. After 2 weeks done, when you open, you will see that it has a lot of fungus. So you just have to mix them up, then you'll be able to harvest a small amount of liquid, just like the fish waste, yeah. So that is called EM, effective microbes. So this is actually a technology that was developed in Mardi. So how you can create your own effective microbes that they use as a very good foliar fertilizer. Yeah. So that is the actual scientific way of making EM from rice waste. Yeah, this is rice waste is different from we're talking about rice water lah. Rice water is just the air yang kita basuh beras tu. Kita just instead of kita buangkan air tu, kita just
Yes,
simpan
that's
saja.
right.
Yes, yes. So it's
Thank
two
you.
different things lah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Yeah, so
Okay.
on behalf of BCWA, I would like to thank Ms.Chan for this very interesting and educational talk. So we are certain that some of you are already planning to grow your own vegetable, fruits, and edible herbs, right?
Okay, thank you everybody. I've left my contact details. You can contact me with my phone number if you want. You can just drop me some WhatsApp messages. I hope you guys enjoy this because I enjoy sharing about gardening a lot, So I'm glad to see so many people on the call today. In fact, so thank you very much to BCWA.